So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show with people chatting in chat, as they would. It's recorded for Ustream.tv and also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. And thank you to all my YouTube people for watching and passing comments. And if you have any requests or if you have any suggestions of future videos, please leave them in the comments below. I've had a play in the Daydreams colour book by Hanna Karlzon, and I like this paper. It's nice quality. It takes a little bit of a damp rigger to give a really nice watercolour effect. And I wanted to play with my Derwent watercolours. They're a bit neglected, and they can do lots and lots of really fantastic things if you're a watercolorer or a watercolourist. But they're also quite good for excuse me, for colouring in, and they give some really nice effects. So I'm going to have a good play with these, and then I might buy some new ones and test them, because these are quite an old set now. So although I can blend as a normal pencil with these as well as use them as a watercolour, I'm not sure you can do that with the new ones. So I thought I'd buy a new set and then I can compare them. Excuse me. So I'll zoom in. I'm using them slightly differently, which is quite nice because you can get a bit bored with using the same things over and over again. Just to see if I'm in focus. And so what I'm using, instead of one colour, I normally use one colour and manipulate it with a damp rigger, which is a long paintbrush, and move the paint about so you've got the same shade but you've got the same colour but different shades. This time I've decided I want to do it slightly different to have a more dramatic effect. So I've got my original colour, which is Madder Carmine number 19. I'm using the Chinese white at the top, so I've got a really white highlight, and then I've used burnt carmine number 65 to give a really dark contrast for the shadow areas. So I wanted to use them slightly differently, so scratching a colour on the top. Now this is a little bit more work for me and my little pearly thumbs, because normally I just scratch a bit of colour and then go. So the next thing is to put the next colour down. And I think that was, oops. And then where I want a bit of shadow, although these are not sharpened, in my eyes they're sharpened, I take the wood off and leave the strip perfectly intact. I've got sharp edges which will create a point if I wanted, but I've also got some nice flat facets, so it means when I want to scratch a little bit of colour without a pencil line, I've got some nice flat areas. So that's quite nice. If you had a point, you wouldn't have any flat areas, you would just have that particular sharp point. So I'm using the number 1 rigger, kind of, like this one. This is the set of the De La Rowney graduate riggers, and this is the number 1, and it seems to be the right size. Having said that, I might actually go to the smallest one, is a 10-0 I have, which is actually a liner, it's not a rigger. And for very tiny spaces, like this little tiny one here, this is going to be really good, and it doesn't hold a lot of water as well, so it's very nice. And activate the white first, slowly work your way down, and then do the darker one. Now, because this is what I call solid proper watercolour, there's going to be some colour on my brush, so I can't work back up like I normally would. But remember, this isn't Inktense, this is watercolour, so it doesn't matter how many times I dry this and go back into it, it will reactivate into a watercolour. So I can just gently go back in there and take that up. And the same with this one. Do the white first. I'm going to use this little tiny liner brush because I actually quite like this one. It gets a very, very nice point. But again, I've got to remember that there is going to be colour, because these are very strong colours, this carmine. Very, very, very strong colours. Excuse me. So again, now what you could do is you could scratch all this colour on all the mushrooms or all over the page, do the whole thing, and then you could shut the book and take it with you, and these will not rub off. When they are like a pencil, this particular set you can use as a pencil and blend. So what I've put on here now is just an ordinary, well, it's not an ordinary, it's extraordinary, but it's a pencil. I've scratched colour on like a pencil. And so you can use a blending tool to blend. Just thought of another way actually. Excuse me. But you can use this colour here, and then you could just colour all it in, the colours you wanted, and then just take your brush and a little lid of water, and then you can colour it wherever you are and leave the pencils at home. And you can colour the whole book in, and it becomes like a magic book. Then all you have to do is activate the bit you want to colour. You could do it that way if you wanted, or you can do it like this and colour as you go along. So they're very versatile. The other thing you could do is actually blend them with a blending tool and leave it as a pencil blended coloured page. So you can use the Derwent watercolour pencils as a pencil. They will blend very nicely together. So you can use them that way as well. If it's a very small space, you can also touch the end, which is pure pigment, and fill in like that if you wanted. I would normally do it off screen, not in front of your page, because if you miss, it will make a bit of a mess. And then you can get some really nice, and you can actually build the colour up very gently with just a damp brush. If you didn't think you could get the pencil into these really tiny spaces. And they give you the little dark areas there. And I think I've missed, there's the tiniest bit I've missed there, look. So just put a bit, that little bit there. Again, so you can go back in and use it as a watercolour. And you can do that on watercolour paper, or you can do that in the good quality books. I've missed one on the left side. There, thank you. Thank you, Mara. That's the beauty of live streaming. There's a little one there, look, hiding. Thank you for that. It's very similar to the Kerber Roseanne ones. You can do 2 hours work and then realise that you've missed half a dozen things. So you can either, so you could do this and then use a little blending tool. Now I do actually have somewhere, I have a little a Derwent blending tool which I have found on my travels. I think it comes in a set. There's a blender and a burnisher, and they are for using with pencils, and you could blend those colours together and have a really nice blend. But because these are a watercolour, you can also use them with a damp rigger. Now I can't use the burnisher and I can't blend very well, so I tend to kind of, oops, and I've used that one and it's not, oh, I'm using the little liner because it's a little bit more control. Sorry, whoopsie. So activate the white first and then drag that down, and then you get that really nice blend, and then activate that very vivid dark purple. So you get some quite nice effects. Excuse me, I've got a frog in the throat today. So she's got the hair down the back and at the top there. This looks like, oh, they look like pearls. But that one looks like the white berries on mistletoe. And mistletoe is a fairly light colour, so again I do have a bit of a scratch. So you can scratch your colour, dampen your brush and have a bit of a think and a look at the colours and think, you know, would that go with this colour here? And I think it would. So again I'm going to keep the white, and then I'm going to look for a, and I've got olive green. Now there is a dark olive in this. I might leave those colours out because I know where they're going. And I take my pencils out of my art bag and I flick them across. They're easy to use. So when you're looking for colours. So I've got a green. I want a really kind of dark. In fact, I actually think I might put chocolate with that. Just thinking. If you put chocolate with olive, you're going to get a pretty dark. Or do I want this one? So if you're not sure, the best thing to do is to have a play. So we know we've got white at one end. And this is for your contrast. So you could put purple with green. Purple with green is always quite nice. So we've got pale that way, and then we go to this really dark colour. It's probably a little bit small, this brush, but so that looks quite interesting. And we've got the very pale colour there, proper colour there, and then we've got this kind of rich chocolate brown as a contrast. I might actually try a purple, talking of which. So we've got this colour here. Just put, could have been probably a bit darker purple, that one, I think, or maybe indigo. Indigo might be a good one. Just try indigo. It's one of my favourite ones for shadows at the moment, is indigo. I think indigo is going to be quite dramatic. Oops. So just because you've just got one set of pens doesn't mean, and colours, doesn't mean you can't play with shadow and shade and contrasting colours. So we've got our olive green to pale, and then that's going to be the contrasting shadowy colour. And then we've got our pale one there, and then contrasting. That's a lovely muted dark grey-green, that one. And that's because it's got the red in it. That's how you make olive. Olive is the orange in the green, the red in the green. I would have thought I would have liked the blue, but I actually like the purple. I like the dark purple because it's given a nice contrast. This one's quite nice, but I think I prefer this one. So my really dark shadows are going to be a muted purple green. Excuse me. So I've got green and I'm going to have white. Oops, I'm going to do it exactly the same way. It's a little bit more work, but you just get that little bit nicer colours, I think. So we want a tip of white. This is going to be really hard on all these, isn't it? And then we're going to have green. Probably not going to see a lot of the white. And again, there's no point on this, but I'm getting into some very tiny spaces because I've got these facets. So they've all got little points on them. And as I wear one down, I get another facet, another sharp edge. So you don't need a point, really. You don't really have to have a point. And what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to do it slightly differently. So I'm going to start with a white and manipulate that nice colour in. And I really must remember to clean the brush every time because that white is not going to remain white. It's a bit of a more work, it's a more pain, it's not quick because I'm manipulating that colour, and because I'm touching it I've got green on there now. And that's the difference between the way I work with one colour, lots of shades. This is 3 colours. So what I'm going to do for this one now, instead of, and I've never done this before, I just thought I'd have a play. But because now I've got this really nice shape, I'm just going to take the tiniest bit of this dark violet, and if I just push that to there, you can see just how little I have. Literally one touch into there. Oops, maybe a bit more. And I've lost it, but never mind. It's always a gamble when you change your colours. Let's put a little bit of purple in the bottom there. It's darkened it up just a little bit. Just a little bit. We can get rid of that one. Some of them can be more than others. But that's because I've got this really tiny little brush. And then we've got buds and we've got seeds or little berries. But then we've got white snowflake dot things. So it gets a bit confusing. Got to concentrate. Oh, hi Claudia, welcome to Bunny's Designs. I'm playing with my Derwent watercolour pencils, but in a slightly different way. So I'm using white to block in a pure highlight, and this will be a long process because there's so many little tiny. And then we've got our olive green number 51, scratching colour in. So this is slightly harder on the fingers and the thumbs. It's not good for poorly thumbs. Trying to do one flower at a time. And and I am using the tiny liner because this is the little liner brush 10-0, because this is a tiny space. These are tiny little spaces, almost like fingernail cuttings, and that's quite foul, but that's just the size. And some are very thin. Do the whites first and drag down to the grey, the green, the olive green, and then slightly back up to manipulate that colour. And then what I want to do, actually I've just decided I know what I can do. I can use I have it's a 5-0. I have a sable brush which is very tiny. So I can use my sable brush that I've been wanting to use. Oops, it's a bit wet, you see. It's actually a bit too wet, that. Yep. And just put the tiniest spot of purple in there. To give it a contrast. And if you take it directly from the paintbrush, it will be stronger. Might have to go even finer. And that's just giving that little bit kind of not kind of gothic, but that little bit of a darker effect rather than kind of fairy tale pale. I think I kind of like that. Just gives it a bit more contrast. Oh, sorry, Karen, can you not hear me? I don't know why it's on full. I have no idea why. It's supposed to be on full, so apologies. I have no idea. Oh, I wonder if it's something to do with that. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Is that any better? I don't think it is. I think it's just me talking. So apologies, everything's a bit thingy today. So we've got our olive green. So again, this is going to be a long kind of process because we're going through each one, and there are so many. So you could do this at the end, or you could do this at the beginning, and then you could take this tiny bit and get the middle colour. Don't know why I missed that one completely. I forgot my gasper this morning, so I think my throat's a bit... So put that on there and put that on there. So I think the colours are just a little bit... You'll have to forgive the throat. I've just had a bit of an asthma do. it, and it won't become any stronger. Excuse me. If I start to talk loudly again, I'll have another asthma attack. So I've got a raw umber and I've got a sienna, so I quite like those. So again, I want a bit of a highlight here. And again, I've not done this before, I'm just having a play. I think I might like... I think that chocolate would be quite good actually. So if we have that one there. And let's blend that one. Possibly I think we could go with a number 1 rigger for that one. Might be a bit better. So apologies, the voice is a bit croaky today. Oh, sorry, Suzanne. It does show on my... It does... I don't know why. Cannot tell you why. Just let me show you this. I cannot tell you why. Whoopsie. Because on my laptop it says my volume is on full. And normally that's red, which means I'm shouting. So I cannot understand why that is on full and this is not filling up. So apologies, but that's normally all I can do. I don't know why. I don't know what's happened. I turned it on and it's exactly the same as it normally is. So apologies. If I did shout, it would be better. But I'll have an asthma attack. So apologies for that. It's just gone. Oh, is there a volume on the headphones? Is that better? Does that seem any better? No, that seems worse. Is that any better? It doesn't look any better. So what have I got? I've got... Oh, let's put the wires out of the way. I've got raw umber 56 and white and my number 1 rigger. And I'm going to blend that and then I'm going to use the chocolate, I think. I think I'm going to use the chocolate, which is down here somewhere. And I'm going to use the liner because it's very, very small. Just going to pull out. I just like this kind of... Is it like steampunky? I don't know if it is, but it just reminds me... It's not my normal kind of pale watercolour effects. I thought it looked a bit different. Oh, I've lost it completely now, but never mind. It's very strange, isn't it? Yeah, I can't understand why. So apologies. Excuse me. Apologies. And I've looked on the actual phone. I've looked on the actual laptop, and it's on full. So I don't understand. Now, because this is watercolour and not Inktense, of course, we can go back in and activate that bit more. So, and this paper can take that little bit more. It won't go through. This is why I love this Hanna Karlzon paper. The Kirby Rosanda's the same. The John Basfords. Those kind of books will take this watercolour effect quite well. So now I do need a very pale colour for here. So again, I'm going to put white in the middle, I think. Just got this obsession by using white. I don't know why. I've never used white before. So blend the white first. And then possibly not quite chocolate, but I think we do a copper beech. Oh no, a burnt umber. Oh, a bronze. Bronze might be quite interesting. So we'll take that bronze. And just give that a bit of a kick. Maybe that's not strong enough. Van Dyke Brown probably might be better. Let's have a go with that. Just want to give it a little bit of oomph. A bit stronger colours than I normally have. Very pale, wishy-washy colours, which I love, but I just wanted something a bit different this time. Oopsie, I've touched the very strong pinky purple colour. That was not good, but never mind. Be careful with that one. So we've got, I can put the chocolate down because that's the chocolate. Dyke brown and raw umber. So again, you've got the white and then the brown. Blend that together. The underside of the mushroom, excuse me, is raw umber, Chinese white, and then a little bit of chocolate. So two colours, and then just touching a bit of chocolate into there to give it that richer tone. So we've got some white where the highlights would be, and then brown everywhere else. we blend those together. Remember the white first, and then drag in that fawny brown colour. If the mushrooms get any bigger, you're going to have to go with a bigger brush, but at the moment this liner is doing quite nicely. I prefer the number 1, but you can keep it quite nice. And then I'm going in there with chocolate to darken up that space. And again, because this is watercolour, you can do this. You can blend it back again, because it's not set, it's a watercolour. But ink tense would have been set. Oh, well, I'll have to have a look for that, Claudia. She says, just jiggle that so I can read it. Hands on Zemdula Snova by Tomislav Tomic. And it's very good for watercolours. Do excuse me, and forgive the pronunciation, that was terrible. But I do like this paper. I have to say it takes really well. But I don't want to use, I only want to use my riggers, so I don't want to, because I don't want my pages to buckle at all. So I quite like working in this little soft way. And then I've got brown ochre 57 for the stems where the dots are, and then where there's no dots I'm putting white. And I think I'm using a bit of raw umber for the middle bit, for the darks, but just have a look. So middle bit first. Got to be careful not to touch that red, so I should have probably done those last. And then a little bit of burnt umber. No, it wasn't burnt umber, it was Van Dyke brown. I think it was Van Dyke brown. Oops. Lost a paintbrush. Oh dear me. Sorry about that. Lost the paintbrush. I think that's the right way around. So we have a bit of white. raw umber. And blend the white first. Be careful not to touch too much of that. Goodness me, that's very wet, is that now? And then we're going there with a little bit of, it's just that bit wet. You can always wipe it with your fingers. After a while, these get very, very, very wet, so that's why I turn mine over, so the bottom one becomes the driest again. Because you're adding water every time you do that. So again, a bit of, oops, wrong one. It was wrong one. Liner. Tiniest amount of chocolate, just to give it a bit of darkness. Oh, well done, Claudia. Well done, Claudia. Well done. Whoopsie, I've done a bit more than I wanted to do on that. My headphones are falling off. Oh, Claudia says she gets her watercolours today. Yeah, I'm going to do a comparison with the old and the new ones just to make sure that you can blend with them, so that should be good. Because I was going to think, I don't really want them, I've got these and I love these, but they may be different because mine must be 20 years old. So there has to be a difference in pigments and the wood as well. I just like that little bit of chocolate just thrown in there. I think that makes it just look a bit different. So you've got to remember what you're using it for. So I've got those three there, those two there. This one is, I didn't use the indigo, I used the purple and I used the green. So you've got to remember what you're doing. I think I used, yes, deep violet. Why did I use deep violet? No, I think I used that one for the greens. I haven't done the stems yet. So the stems were raw sienna and white. So I'll do some raw sienna. So it's a little bit hard on your hands because you're doing more colouring in, but this would be exactly the same, but instead of using a damp rigger, you could use this little blending pencil and you could use it on any paper then and it would blend the colours. It's just a bit difficult for me is using those. So going back to that little liner just to give that a nice blend. And it really doesn't take very much at all. And you do have to clean your brush every time because now you're using white. If you're going to put that white highlight on, you need to keep the highlight. I think I used a little bit of Van Dyke Brown, I think, for that one. Just that little bit of darkness, shadow. It just makes a little tiny bit of difference. Oh, there's a little man. So I apologise. I'll have to stop the video. I've got to take the car back. The little man's brought the car back. Yes, I know, darling. I can see him. So thank you very much. I really apologise. I should be back in about 10 minutes. I just have to go take. I have to take the car back. So thanks for watching.